Like, I believe people should post on their personal Facebook. That's a no rules. That, like, if there were no rules, what would you do for your business? And I mean, like, within ethical bounds and being a moral person, but like, if there were no, like, because there's a lot of times we put rules in that don't relate to that are holding us back.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Patrick Carr Show. Got a great guest, a friend of mine, Tim Brown, Hook Agency. If you've been involved with roofing for any more than a couple of weeks, hell, a day, you know exactly who this guy is. He's got an online personality as well as just being a great person. Tim Brown, thank you very much. This is not your first time joining the show, so thank you very much and welcome back.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to chat with you.
Man, it's been too long since I've chatted with you. And so I told myself this last night, I would tell you thank you, which I haven't done since you don't know this, but I've told a story about you probably 100 times about how you changed the trajectory of my business. I don't know if you've heard this with the conversation you and I had at the Chuck Toki event in Texas.
Okay.
There was a conversation during one of the breaks at Top Rep, and you were there and I was there, and somebody came up and asked a question about needing some video, and you sent them over to your video guy. And I looked at you and I was like, man, I do video. And you're like, Patrick, you do the podcast. You're great at the podcast. You do the podcast. And it was a moment that clicked for me that I had lost track of who I was as a business. And I have to thank you for that, because I took 2 years now to get Blue Collar Media Group back to doing what I wanted it to do. And then I'm trying to start doing the podcast again. But I never do that unless a light bulb from you clicks on and I'm like, people don't even know what I do anymore.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I've had people like do things kind of like that for me. Like Nick Parrott of his Better Boss once was talking to me, and we were talking about just contractors. Like, I serve contractors, and he's like, roofers, Tim, roofers. You know, like he like pushed me to get more specific and go all in on roofers. And yes, we have expanded to HVAC recently, but we had 2 years where we were just hammering roofing. And that was probably the biggest change in our business ever, that made like the most huge of a difference of like really just saying the one thing over and over and over again.
I've had a lot of trouble with that myself. And that's my first question for you, because I think a lot of marketing, website, video creation, let's just say creatives in general, anybody in that space, it's very difficult, Tim, to stick into one niche, roofing contractors, especially, let's be honest, because roofing at times isn't the sexiest or most exciting thing. How tempted were you over the years to go, okay, I'm going to go into, I don't know, neon signs. We have one over here, and I'm going to be the marketing for neon signs or for flooring. Did you ever get tempted to go elsewhere, or has it been easy to stay focused?
Well, so we went out into the market with everything at first for years. So we had about 3-4 years where we were doing it for everything in our industry, and then like in our area, because we were ranking on Google for things like Minneapolis SEO, web design, marketing. And so we were getting all kinds of leads. Home services came in more than other ones because they need leads a lot, and that's what we were trying to do. And so that was our highest concentration of clients. But yeah, I remember my wife and I went on a walk, and she's like, I just don't feel like we're doing our best work here. We had a couple clients that like were very stressful, that were, not that we don't now, but like it was medical insurance, auto adjudication, which just means they're helping deny insurance claims automatically with AI, basically.
Yeah.
And and that client is like a big client for us. Big, you can imagine they have a lot of money helping people deny claims so much. And we had a major issue with them. And my wife was just like, we got to finally pull the trigger on this niche thing. We had prepped it. We had a lot of clients. We had so many nice people trying to help us in the industry, and there's a lot of good stuff. We said no more. And we said only contractors. So once we started to say no, it unlocked a lot of exponential growth for us. And then one, like I said, that Nick Parrott conversation came that fall at RoofCon about 4 or so years ago, and then that January we just started saying roofing all the time. Everything was roofing, roofing all in on roofing, and that was kind of like the graph went like that.
I'm interested to hear your opinion about this. We have a video that we do called Services You Offer, where we'll ask, we'll ask a contractor in pre-production, what services do you offer? And they'll kind of laugh at us sometimes. They'll go, we're roofers. What do you think? We do
Yeah.
roofing. But then when you dive into it, they'll say, well, do you do shingle? Do you do tile? Do you do metal, TPO? What kind of, and they'll go, well, we kind of do metal, or we sort of do siding, or we can do it if it comes across our table. My question for you is, being how familiar you are with niching your way down, are you able to help contractors to understand their market, like understand what they're great at? I've got to think that's a strength over there at Hook and you personally, because when you're a contractor, I'm sure there's a tendency to want to go, hey, if it comes in the door, I can do it. I've got a GC license.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll build that deck. But do you find that you're able to help them a little bit more with understanding their market and their audience because of your experience?
Doubling down on your strengths. Like, I think one of the things that draws people into a more niched situation. So I get why people do it, but then once you start looking at profit, I think that that's a good way to look. Like, look at the profit on your jobs and follow that white rabbit. You know what I mean? Like, don't follow the rabbit of revenue, because I think that the white rabbit of profit will draw you to niche and specialize more and more, whether it be in an area, like
Wow.
getting tighter on an area, or it being tighter on types of work you do.
Yeah, I agree. I just wrote down right here, Tim, profit will naturally niche your business.
Yeah.
And I think that's, if you chase the profit, like you said, I've fallen victim to this many times of trying to get revenue in the door. And in the process of doing so, I hurt my team, where, I overburdened my team with work that really wasn't profitable work and wasn't great for what we were doing or our brand, but it was money that was in the door. So I felt good about it. Kind of gave me a dopamine hit.
Yeah, I think sales is so fun, right? Like, we love closing a deal. So even if it's not a profitable deal, I think it's very satisfying nonetheless in that moment.
It says a lot, I think, for people coming from you. I've seen your company grow. I mean, I remember the first RoofCon, going to it and seeing you. Now, seeing your reach within the industry. I mean, we talked to a number of contractors who they used your website, or who built this. Well, it was Tim. It was Hook. And you've obviously done something right within the industry. And my question for you about Hook is this: you're not the least expensive agency to go with. There are people that will do work for cheaper than what your agency will. But it seems to me that the people who roll with you have a certain expectation of quality and results that they should expect from you for that money. That's my first. Is that the case? And number two, being that you may not be the cheapest, when do you find is the best or the prime time for a roofing contractor to get in touch with your business and to use your services?
Yeah, I think I like to open it up to like that 3 million, down to the 3 million number. I think it's probably best in like the 5. We are expensive, and I'm just like finding the companies that stick with us the longest, and that, there's a lot of things that take a while, and like SEO, for instance, takes a while, but it's also like, to create those longer term relationships, they're usually in growth mode, right? Growth mode businesses. So ideal scenario, probably like 5 to 15 million. Maybe they don't have a bunch of people in house on marketing yet, but they want to have like a real team, like a real marketing company that's not like cutting corners or super. They cared about cheap, and then they got caught with their pants down, and then they decided to care about doing it right.
Couldn't agree more. I tell somebody, like I was telling a client the other day, that, they said you're significantly more expensive than the other media company that we were considering working with. We were going back and forth in the negotiation process. And I said, you're paying for the difference in the 10% that we know that they don't. And the guy goes, okay, I'll bite, explain it to me. And he said, I said, that media company that you're considering hiring, he does NASCAR, is what they do. I said, when they show up on site, are they going to know every single time to make sure your guys are roped off? Are they going to make sure that it's done right? Are they going to make sure how the guys are doing the shingle that it's done correctly, how we're videoing it? Are they going to make sure that they're putting the nails in the right space before we do a close up and a nail gun shot? Do they understand where that strip is at? I
Mm-hmm.
said, these things like that you're not going to think about, but when we put into your video, you're either going to get praised for or you're going to get slammed online for what you're doing. I said, that's the 10% difference right
Mm-hmm.
there. And I said, that's where the details are. So you pay for us to know your industry better than anybody else.
Mm.
And that's what I
That's
think
good.
about with Hook. You
Yeah.
pay for you to know that 10% that some marketing company who's more diversified isn't going to understand about the industry, isn't going to understand about Tim's client like you can
Yeah.
understand them. You know them. Hook it, you know
Yeah.
those people, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, it's we have 100 plus roofing clients. So everybody in my team gets those reps in, right? Like everyone, like, and I'm not going to say we never make a mistake on that. It's just every one of those mistakes gets processed and then used in the future, right? And I think it's part of it is like you kind of pay for a company to have processed more of those mistakes. You know what I mean? Like we've
Yeah.
processed a lot of mistakes, and I'm sure you have too, right? Where it's like eventually that muscle memory and the fact that everyone on that company has been through a lot of that,
Yeah.
and like that's partly what elevates the value of a service. That's why niche companies, I think there is a ton of value in a niched marketing company, whatever services they are doing.
Where do you think some blue ocean opportunities are in the next 3 to 5 years or sooner? Or talk to me about what you're seeing in the field.
It's just, yeah, I would almost like lead with it's a scary time for search marketing. Like I am recklessly and aggressively pursuing learning about getting more video views. I think so. Like, I think sometimes it's following what people in marketing are doing, not just saying, right? Because I sell marketing services, so I'm going to have opinions on certain things.
Yep.
Um, but I think it's also what is Tim doing? What is Tim spending his time on? Tim is spending his time on creating a lot of videos. Tim is trying to increase the virality factor of those videos. He's trying to create. I'm trying to learn how to do better call to actions in my long form videos. I'm pushing into video. I think what's crazy is people think it's ChatGPT, but then they totally neglect the second highest search engine in the world, which is YouTube. So you're worried about the third or the fourth or the fifth search engine, and you're skipping over number two. So if you haven't aggressively pushed into video yet, and you think you should jump to pushing into ChatGPT, why are you ignoring the number two most popular Google or search engine in the world? Homeowners overwhelmingly use video to research your business.
There you
Yeah,
go,
okay.
man. I mean, I was looking at this just the other day, Tim.
Yeah,
Video company website where or where consumers research roofing companies. Where is their video at? Where
yeah,
where are they searching? Look at YouTube right there. After Google reviews, I mean, YouTube is up there. It's right there. It's the top of all of the social media that are out there.
yeah.
Um, and so I could, man, I think YouTube is just such a blue ocean opportunity. I couldn't agree with you more on this one. I just had this. I
Um,
was looking at this before we got on the call. I know we hadn't talked about this, but literally was looking at this before we got on the call.
yeah, yeah. Video is a massive opportunity. As you know, it is a heavy lift, right? Like,
Mhm.
and so that's why most people don't do it. I think, like for roofers, right? You look at the things you guys are willing to do that are so uncomfortable. You do the hardest thing. This is door knocking a lot of times, right? Like
Yeah.
you do the hardest things in the world. Like roofing is a hard job. So I think like doing the hard thing is in your DNA, and video, even though it's hard and it's work, is like, one of the more effective marketing things. And I think people should do it even though it's hard. And I think that's why it works. That's why door knocking works, is because it's hard and no one wants to do it. Uh,
Oh, that's true.
and that's why video works, because it's hard and no one wants to do it. Or like I know a lot of people are now, but it's harder to do than just, popping out a ChatGPT Facebook post or whatever.
I think that you've done something very well. I'll give you some credit for this. You're pretty much the same person on camera that you are when the light is on versus when the light is off, when you press record, when it stops recording. You're Tim Brown and you're going to be that person. I think I've worked with a lot of roofers now on the video side, and I see that the best ones are the ones that are like that, Tim,
Yeah.
where they're just able to be themselves on camera, and they don't, when the light turns on, turn on an act where they
Yeah.
go into a used car salesman, like, come on down to Houston, or what I'm saying, I shouldn't say Houston.
Yeah.
Jason, I love you. You're great at this. But come on down to Patrick Carr Roofing. And then the light goes off and like, hey, how was that? And I'm like, man, you sound more natural just talking to me right now.
Yeah.
Um,
That's such a hard skill to learn. No, that's
it
it's kind of reps, right? Like if I showed you my first YouTube videos from like 8 years ago, I literally like, I look goofy as hell, dude. I'm sitting there like, I'm like, I like to look at high fashion. Like, I don't know what I was doing, but I look at that stuff back then and I'm like, I thought it was something else. Like I don't know what I thought. I think it's a reps thing though. Like you have to get reps in and then you have to just recognize there's way more work to do something else than to just try to be yourself. And I know it's hard, but I think it's like ultimately you're doing your best to be yourself. That's all you can do because all of us change a little bit. Like it's impossible to not do a little change. Like, but it's way more work to try to do and recognize you will meet people that have watched your video. So just know you're going to meet people that watched your video and you're going to be at a thing with them or like you're going to be hanging out with them for 6 hours and it's going to be weird as hell if you're not the same person.
Mike Claudio made a very similar point to the one you just made right there about the way the tone inflection in someone's voice. And he put it a step further. I did a podcast with him. He goes, Patrick, you got a very intense personality. He goes, but you're losing the effectiveness of that intensity by being intense all the time. He said, because you're always intense, when you need to make a point of emphasis, it's not as you don't have as much emphasis on it because you're already at a point way up here. If you're down here and then you brought it up, you'd have your audience so much more engaged with you. And this is where I struggle the most, Tim, is that I always want to be like you said, like, hey guys, like Patrick Carr, blue collar me, and I want to be that guy. Like, I don't know. I don't know where I just growing up watching 90s television. I'm not sure, but I've really got to try to dial it back a lot and just talk like I normally would talk to somebody. And it helps me. And I actually enjoy doing the content a little bit more, but it's like, you're right. There's this balance of, I got to stop them on the window that's going by. But I also, man, I want to just have a conversation and feel normal, not like I'm trying to sell the used car.
But the crazy part is you do want to bring your best energy. So it's like a blend of those two things. Because like, for instance, like think about it home, like you're sitting in front of a homeowner, that's kind of the vibe, right? Because yes, you're authentic in front of a homeowner. And some people are like hyper authentic. Like when I say hyper authentic, I mean like swearing or like whatever else. I'm saying like whatever's authentic to you, but still being professional and having good energy because like something else might have happened to you that day. There might be something else going on that's frustrating in your business, but you don't want to have that energy when you hit the people in the face with video. Like you have to watch accidentally bringing that negative energy onto the video and with your video team, I'm guessing. So there's an element of like, you have to compartmentalize sometimes because sometimes you're having a bad day or like something else is going on and you still have to like show up with positive energy. So I think about it like sitting with a homeowner that you actually want to sell. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's okay. It's okay that you're like not telling them about everything that went bad in your day, right?
God. I'm thinking right now, my team told me last week I need to become more authentic with my stories about like what it goes through my head in the day. Because I always show the wins or I show we're out on site and we're on this roof and we're doing this. But like, if you look around me right here, I mean, there's Chipotle and, I was here late last night and our office, I don't know if it shows that well on camera, so I don't show it very much. It's not like glass partitioned offices and stuff, but it's really what we do every day. It's like the real stuff.
Yeah.
Like I've got I don't have some fancy desk or something in my office. It's,
Hmm.
the cheapest one I could find at Office Depot. And that's. So I guess like sometimes I struggle to show the real authentic stuff without some
Yeah.
kind of, I guess you'd say, we call it a LUT, but some kind of filter over the lens.
No, I
Um,
get that. That
and
makes
I,
a lot of sense.
yeah.
Yeah, because
So,
people judge different scenarios. Like I, as I built this business, it's so funny because I honestly feel like back when I was just starting, like 2 or 3 years in, I had the most. I actually believe my takes on stuff would have been like the most valuable to somebody else because I was like literally every day building something like 80 hours a week, and um I was the best I'd ever been because I was working my butt off personally in the work, right? Everything was done, everything was done by me, etc. But like the place, we were down in a basement, the wall, like the water was coming down the wall. It was ugly. Like I literally
yeah.
remember like, and because of Gary Vee, it says like document, don't create. I would like, I do remember I put it on the stories every once in a while, like a video of just like the wall where the water was coming down in this basement. It was like we tried to make it cute and nice in there, but this wall was just weeping. And and I remember like thinking like, yeah, it's hard to remember you're in the good old days when you're in the good old days
Oh,
because
yes. Yep.
it is not always the fanciest stuff, but it was a great experience, you know what I mean? And it's like recognize it's partly for you too. You know what I mean? As you show this, like do one, just try one video like that, where it's like showing all the look at these funny things we got in our office, and then you never know, maybe you'll be in a fancier office one day and you'll look back on that moment, or maybe you'll appreciate where you came from more one day, and also just in this moment now, like authentically trying to appreciate what we have, because I think we all like get way more out of our life when we can authentically appreciate what we have now, and we usually get more. I feel like I get more when I'm like actually grateful for what I have, no matter what it is. So I don't know. I think part of it is just like documenting partly for yourself, because then you get to look back on that video in 3 years and be like, okay, we came a little further from that one, or whatever.
I do like seeing every now and then on Facebook, 2 years ago, you were doing this. So I hope you're right about that because hopefully in 2 years, I look back at what we're doing right now and I think something similar to, I was just like, oh, I cringed. I saw one from like 3 years ago and I was like, man, I had hair and all this. So, oh, I don't know about this guy. Um, you've had a lot of creativity in your business. You've had a way of engaging people at trade shows, online. I think some of it is more of your dynamic personality, just you personally, something that's built into you. But your business has been very creative too, in garnering attention and eyeballs and getting people invested with you and who you and what you all do, and kind of becoming fans of Hook Agency. Can you walk me through, like for roofers out there are going to want to know this too. What is the creative process like for Tim Brown? We haven't talked about this before, but I wanted to ask you this, so forgive me. I thought about this earlier today. Like, do you guys have meetings there and like you just throw out ideas? Is this like banana ball style where you just try something new all the time? Because there are roofers who like they're like, I don't even know where to start with the creative process, Tim. You've been so successful at it. Can you walk us through that process or lack thereof for you?
Ultimately, we all want that in our business, is to take the things that are, we think we can only do, and to help other people do some of that. So teaching creativity, but I have done that in other areas of in my business, right? So
Okay.
websites, for instance, I used to feel like there was these things that we'd put on different websites that were extra special and unusual, and I didn't know how to get other people to come up with them because I felt like, it was usually a weird idea based on their brand or their like what makes them special, and I would come up with it personally, and then we ended up coming up with kind of like a process for that, and we call it hookified elements, and then more of the sites were coming out with things that were kind of like that, and like they maybe it wasn't the wildly creative ones, but it was pretty creative. It was like 80%. And I was like, I'm happy with it. I feel like it, like each site comes out unique. They don't look like each other. They have their own freshness and their own feel. And I think like now, as far as our marketing goes and what we're trying to do for ourselves, I think there's a, yes, it still feels a little bit like it's just me, but then I'm trying to involve other people and I'm guiding that discussion and I'm trying to help them. Like we do whiteboards. Yeah, we do a whiteboard thing with marketing people and salespeople. And there's an element of, hey guys, I'm trying to ask good questions, right? Like how could we get, the way I look at it is like, how could we get a new sense involved in our marketing? Like smell, taste, feel.
Yeah. It's such a like catch 22. You're building systems for creativity. And then you're like trying to still get the most creativity, Tim, out of those systems. But systems are in essence like the thing that squashes sometimes creativity itself. And, we have
Yeah.
to have them here. We have to have systems in place for the videos we create.
Yeah.
But I also have to give them people enough room to be creative in the content they're creating for the contractor.
Yeah.
It's like it's very tough to know where that line is. Sometimes I think it's just a feel I have in the room, and maybe you felt it where I feel things are getting too tight. Like
Yep.
we need to loosen up.
Yeah. That's
And
a
it's
so
like a
important.
you can feel it. Like you're talking about
Yeah.
senses. Like you can kind of feel that tightness that everyone's got right now. We're too rigid.
Yeah.
We need to let loose a little bit. We need to
Yeah.
try some things. Let's see how it turns out. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's super important. I bet you a lot of other people have experienced that too. I think that I just say like because we push on systems, right? And everybody that we follow, probably coaches, business coaches, gurus, they're all like create systems and SOPs, and I do that all the time.
Yeah.
It's just then we say every once in a while, like, what could we subtract?
Ooh.
What can we subtract? What's holding us up? What's a constraint that we think we have that we don't need to have? And I think we make up constraints for ourselves. I went to this. I don't think anyone that's going to go to this is going to go to this watching this is going to go to this. But I went to this bold leadership training, and they had this thing with these. It was this exercise where you and the whole team had to try to like put two items into the opposite buckets with like only nothing but these strings, and you could all hold on to them. And I won't go it's hard to imagine if you didn't look at it, but there's a bunch you had to do it without going into the circle to move the things, and you had to like hook on to the things and move them over.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of things that we thought were rules, and we didn't we got real close. We got like in 20-30 seconds. The first time we did it was like 15 minutes, but it was because there's a bunch of stuff that we thought were rules that weren't really rules. And I think that there's a lot of that in business too, is like people are making up rules that are holding them back. Like one of the biggest ones, I think, just to bring it down to practical for a second, is not posting on their personal Facebook. Like I believe people should post on their personal Facebook. That's a no rules. That like if there were no rules, what would you do for your business? And I mean like within ethical bounds and being a moral person, but like if there were no, like, because there's a lot of times we put rules in that don't relate to that are holding us back. And one of them is like we're putting on our Facebook page for our business, but we could be putting it on our personal page, and we don't just like say, all right, what would I do if there were no rules? So I think that's just good thing everyone's asked that. And then we literally like have workshops and say like, what could we subtract? Because, sometimes you're just doing something because you've been doing it forever.
God, what would you do if there were no rules?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it right now. I recently posted a picture, Tim, of me and my girlfriend, and I had no hashtags on it, nothing on it, but yet it got more views, just the picture, than most of the stuff I've ran some ads for with Blue Collar. And it was because I rarely show anything of my personal life, I think. But I think it goes to show what you're talking about, that people want to get to know the authentic individual, and they want, like, if there's no rules and, hey man, show me what's going on in your Saturday, even if it's not something you think would be entertaining. But I fall the victim to, well, this is just a normal, I don't know, I'm fixing a day bed for my girlfriend on the back porch right now, and it doesn't have the right tools. No one would want to know anything about that, Tim, but maybe they do. Maybe someone can relate to that.
Yeah.
But I put these rules around me, even where I'm like, no one's going to want to see that. That's not on brand for who I am. And I've been trying to get out of that thought because I've been trying to humble myself a lot into you don't even have a brand, Patrick. Stop acting like, there's a brand that you've built that millions of people follow and that, you've got sponsors over here. It's just you running a small business. Get out of your own head and off your high horse. I've really been trying to tell myself that a lot, that that might be beneficial if I could get that through my head a lot more.
I needed that today, Patrick. I think that it is something where as a small, like, like we dramatize things. Like my therapist would call it catastrophization.
Ooh, I like that.
And I take things very seriously a lot. So I needed that. I appreciate you talking about that. Yeah.
So I know time is valuable, but just two final questions for you. And these are things I think contractors could find a lot of value with. And I'm very interested in knowing. For the first time in a long time, Tim, I'm in a serious relationship in my life. Um, and I, I struggle being a business owner, balancing what I do here and the stress and bringing it home and I don't know, unleashing that at times or even bottling it in too much. I can't seem to find the right balance between the
Mm,
two. Um, I look at you, man, and I see this family. I know it's a lot of work and it's not easy as it always looks, but you have a beautiful family.
thank you, man.
I know how much you love your family. You've sacrificed for them. How have you been able to, or have you had any tricks of the trade or anything for that contractor or business owner who's doing 3 to 5 million, man? Tim, they're grinding, brah, and they're
Yeah.
trying to make a relationship and their family work. What's been something that's helped you, and what do you say to them, bro?
Mm, cold plunge.
Got it. Yeah.
And working out and carving time out for you separate from your family, right? Like I work out and honestly it took a second, right, to get the wife in on that. Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm gonna be at the gym. And
Right.
actually now she tells me to cold plunge when I'm acting like a little bitch to release the cortisol, man, because
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, dude. I got whininess and all that, right? So that and as time goes on, you make systems, you subtract systems, you make systems, you subtract systems, and then as you're really focused on getting better people that are willing to like help build the strategy, and those people will start to help you take some of that burden off your back. And it is about getting better people. So we all know the symptoms, and there's a lot of people trying to sell the solutions for SOPs and hiring order and all these people that have this stuff, but know that it is a craft. And like read the books. There's a book called Culture Code. There's a book called The Dream Manager. And both of those books are about this idea of like trying to get the best people in that are for your culture and then that will help build your systems. And I think we all know what we need to do. Also just having some patience for ourselves and some love
Yeah.
for ourselves. And that's a lot easier said than done when you're a driven type A entrepreneur and love yourself.
Yeah. I hope people would show grace to me if they saw mistakes that I've made. Just yesterday, Tim, I blew up at an employee of mine that was
Yeah.
unnecessary.
Oh yeah.
ended up I ended up hitting a wall or a door. I'm sorry, a door.
Yeah.
Um, like I, and like sometimes I really hope that if people kind of dig into my life at some point or they hear something about me or whatever else, that I'll get some grace because in some way, I guess I say it knowing how many mistakes I make. Um, and I try, but I make a lot of mistakes and do a lot of stupid shit. Um, and I try to be a decent person to work for and a good company that does what we say we're going to do, like you do. But man, I'll be lying if I said that I got it figured out, or it is what you see online, and we're just we're every day clicking over here, and we're on top of another roof doing more video, and like
Yeah.
it. I I hope I get some grace at some point in my life when people figure out, man, that guy, he was kind of figuring out as he went there.
Yeah.
Um, and he didn't have it all figured out in 2025 like he might have tried to perceive or tried to seem like he did. Um,
Brother, you're doing the right things, man. And I will say, I think that thread and the fact that you care and you want to be better is like, it's a golden thread and keep finding it. Like, I think I am getting better with that. I do that less. I do that less. I'm just being real. I do that less than I did 3 years ago. And thank God, because but you're in a different stage of your business, dude. We all are. And there's a bunch of people out there that have gone through that too and feel that. And it's like really fucking hard to be an entrepreneur. So, like, I'm just telling you that in the quiet of our situation here. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Just you and me. Just you and me. It's really fucking hard to be an entrepreneur. And like, I forgive you. I hope
thanks.
that person forgives you. I think God forgives you.
Yeah,
Like, just be cool to yourself, dude. Be cool to you. Like, I think as we get nicer to ourselves, and I mean, like, I'm preaching now, bro, but
I
as
get
we
it.
get nicer to ourselves, I honestly believe it helps us get nicer to our employees too. I think that's real.
I need to do better. My last question for you is about, well, it's about being nice or lack thereof, Tim.
Yeah, sure. Let's do
Um,
it.
so here's my question for you, because I don't think this is discussed nearly enough. Negativity online. You
Yeah,
see it with your feedback you get on things that you
sure.
build or your company. I get it with videos that we make.
Yeah,
With people, I'll post something like an ad online, and I'll just get ripped apart by people in the media world. Sometimes I think individuals in the contracting space vastly underestimate how impactful a negative comment is on their psyche.
sure.
Um,
Yeah, but
man, could you
people
talk
are doing
about
it all the
negativity?
time. There's so much. I want to. Sorry, I'm
No,
interrupting.
please go, please.
We almost have to get really good with like that is something super hard. Like I think I got one yesterday, and I was like, I don't react to it as much as I did because we just put out so much, right? Like we were putting out so much content
Yeah,
that like the first one sucks, the 10th one sucks, the 100th one sucks, but the 1,000th one sucks way less because it just like you basically realize you can't be going back and forth like that emotionally all the time. So yes, it kind of takes getting through some of those. So you just need to get to your 1,000th one and then you won't care as much. And it's like there's gonna be if you put out a ridiculous amount of content, there will be 1,000th one. And it's understanding why you're doing it. It is good for your business. It's okay that there's people that are haters, and your 1,000th one won't hurt as much, and it might even be a superpower. That being said, it stings still. It stings. It
yeah,
just stings less, right? It stings. And then as far as like negativity online, because there's also just like our Facebook feeds, like roofing has been a little wild lately. Like it's just a lot of like, and people just intimating this and that and negative to like people being negative to agencies or whatever. And like I am one of the more visible ones in roofing. So sometimes I'm like, that might be about me. I have no idea. And then I just go unfollow. I
yep.
stay
That's
friends
good.
with and I unfollow because I'm sorry, but if you're gonna like live your life like that where you're attacking people all the time, I'm just really not into that energy anymore. I might have been a few years ago, but I'm just trying to build something here, man. And I think most of the people that really make bigger businesses don't sit on that energy and don't like even utilize that energy. Like literally like it's a waste. It's such a waste. It's such a waste of time and effort because then we're all competing with each other and looking weird and we don't need to do that. Let's focus on our customers.
I've got it right here. A good reminder to me. It's okay to block people, like you just
Yeah.
said. It's
Oh
okay to
yeah.
unfollow. It's
Or
okay to
just
block.
unfollow because you can
Yeah,
stay friends
yeah,
with them and unfollow.
yeah. I
And like
just
curate your feed. Like take a week and try to like curate your social feeds. I think that's worthwhile.
I couldn't agree with you more. Um, Tim, for somebody who maybe has not been introduced to you, and just in my audience, and how do they or when do they reach out? How do they reach out? We already talked about when, the kind of that window, but how do they get in touch with Hook Agency, and what is that process like? That's my final question there for you. Just walk us through that.
Yeah, you can go to hookagency.com or hookagency.com/call.
Okay.
directly to schedule a time to chat with us. Follow us on social, Hook Agency all over. And then the book is coming out August 1. It's called How to Become a Hometown Hero, a powerful guide to home services marketing. It's got killer people in there like Martin Pettigrew, Marcus Sheridan, John Cenac, and a number of other like very solid growth mode roofers. And in addition to other home services, there's some HVAC guys and there's some plumbers. But it's a cross pollination of home services and a lot of roofing. So it's like half roofing. And it's kind of the emotional and the psychological side of marketing, not just the tactics, which I think will be enjoyable for a lot of people. And yeah, that's the main thing. Hookagency.com.
Well, okay. Well, now you said that, I need one more minute of your time here. Then,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
Tim. Tell
Yep.
me,
You're good.
what is one thing you're writing this book? You're obviously there. You've got some great people like John and Marcus Sheridan. You got great people that you're
Yeah.
feeding off of here. Is there anything you learned in that book with writing it, with putting the information together that you were like
Yeah.
an aha moment, either for yourself or the
Oh, that's
people
good.
that are reading it? Can you share me a nugget right there, bro?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. As I was writing this book, I got into the idea of storytelling. And I think that storytelling apparently increases our ability to remember things by a lot. And I kind of thought that theoretically from like building a story brand, but I
Hmm?
got a little bit deeper on it. There's a guy named Jay Golden who has the story spine. And it's basically just, as simply put as I can possibly make it. It's once upon a time and every day until one day and because of that and because of that until finally and every day since then. So it's basically the basic spine of every story, and you can kind of work that into things and then make them like focus on details like the like taste, smell, feeling, all the like little sensory details in the story. And it was an interesting um exercise to try to build some of those stories that were real and it wasn't like fiction, but it like based on my life and different things that led to the lessons, uh, capture some of those moments, which I'm like into that story spine thing now. And I'm like going to try to work it into more content. I think it's fun.
I think it's a really good, and it always was until that's a great
Yeah.
way. I'm gonna have to learn that.
The
That is a great
retellable, it's like the retellable framework. And there's a book called Jay Golden called Retellable.
retellable. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm writing it down right now. I think that's great because yeah, I'm so used to the storybook brand. That's
Yeah.
what I kind of started on. So I completely understand what you mean. Tim, I appreciate you carving out some time so quickly here today for me. As we get the show back up and running and try to put more time to it, I again have to thank you for what you did for me and just that comment. I don't think I'd be able to even sit here with you today if it wasn't for you. I never would have snapped out of it, at least in that amount of time. So thank you very much. And um, I'm a fan of yours from a distance. I think what you do is extremely valuable. And what you've been able to accomplish in the last years that I've known you, I've seen an immense amount of growth. Um, and I just appreciate you taking the time, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if you guys aren't working with Patrick Carr and Blue Collar Media Group, I think you should get on it. I think video is the most important thing that you're neglecting. It's the number two biggest, YouTube is the number two biggest search engine in the world, not to mention all of us scrolling on our reels and short form video all day. So get a team that understands your industry and get out there and do the hard things that make your business grow. Hire them.